Welcome, everybody, to the Lynn, Scott, and Friends show, as we all see it. I'm your co-host, Scott Jones, with the beautiful Lynn Serrano bringing you the show. And, of course, our guests and our friends and our compatriots in the show, Rex Sykes, Scott Scooter Schelling, John Horton, and, of course, Barry Selby. And we never know who else is going to show up, but that's what we're starting with today. And, Lynn, how you doing, darling?
I'm doing great. Thanks everybody for being here. And so we did pick a quick topic, so Scott's going to talk about that here. And
yeah, no fancy background. Don't have my coffee behind me. Don't have my art behind me. I'm in a hotel room, so this is actually kind of cool. It gives me something to do tonight. But what I wanted to bring up was, and this is a very personal thing. Whatever you guys want to share, you could share. But I always really get inspired by things that change people, maybe their lives or the directions of what they do. So maybe we could take a few moments and share, or take the show and share, maybe a lesson or something that you've learned that actually made a real impact in your life. Personally, maybe changed you or changed the direction of what you do. I'll share quickly with mine. Obviously, everybody knows that. Being someone who's in recovery from alcoholism and drug addiction, and pretty much just being an asshole most of my life, and being in recovery from that as well. There is a recovery process from being a jerkweed. But I think even in my recovery, I was looking at things in a certain way until I got into this rhythm of recovery where. And it's a standard in treatments and in self-help groups where they say the disease is so powerful, you have no power over it, and it's got power over you. And we even label alcoholics and addicts as alcoholics and addicts. They're no longer people. There's not another disease on this planet where Bob has cancer. We no longer call him Bob, we call him cancer. But with the diseases of alcoholism and drug addiction, the minute somebody becomes addicted to something, or drinks alcoholically, or becomes alcoholically addicted, we immediately put the disease in front of the person. And the truth is that this disease of alcoholism and drug addiction is the only disease where you don't treat the disease, you treat the person. The disease is not treatable. The person is treatable, who then defeats the disease. We have to put the people back first. And that's what changed with me, is I got tired of listening to everybody say how powerless we are, and that there's, without this, or if you don't have that, you can't do it. You can do anything you set your mind to. We are people. We are Mo-Rock. I love alcohol. Good for you, brother. I'm glad you got the point.
It's everything.
I no longer associate myself with the powerless in the world, because if I was powerless, then there is no hope. I have all the power in the world. And when I get to the end of my driveway, I turn left or I turn right. That's all the power you need to change your life. To wake up in the morning, make a decision. I'm going to have a good day. I'm going to have a bad day. I'm going to walk a godly path, or I'm going to walk a bad path. I'm going to do this, or this is all power that we have, the power of choice. And that's the only power you need to defeat things like alcoholism and drug addiction. Now, most of the time, there's co-occurring disorders that go with it, including mental health disorders and things like that. But none of these things is bigger than the person. And so that's where I've dedicated my life to turning that around and helping people. I don't treat diseases, I help people. And people then find a way to conquer their own demons, their own diseases. I wish it would work for many other diseases. I really do. I wish there was a way where we can empower people to defeat their own cancer. And the truth is, there is some empowerment in that. But especially when you're dealing with things like mental health, alcoholism, and drug addiction, it should no longer be this person is an addict. No, that person is a person who happens to suffer from addiction. There's a difference in how we say things. Words mean something, and attitudes mean everything. So that's what I learned. It changed the course of my life, and I'm dedicated. That's why I'm sitting in a hotel room by myself tonight, because tomorrow I get to go share this message with people and hopefully start to change some of the parameters of how we treat people who suffer from substance abuse disorder and alcohol use disorder. That's what changed for me. And hopefully that made sense. And if it didn't make sense, you know what? It makes sense to me. And I'm alone in a hotel room, so it really doesn't freaking matter.
And screw you if you don't get it.
Screw you if you don't get it.
And you know,
I got a question. Are you paying by the hour?
No, we got good ones. They got 3-hour rates. We got a good room.
I just want to say, I'm going to jump right in. I want to say what you shared was beautiful. It's about choice, and it's about making that decision every day, whether you go left or whether you go right, whether you live a good day or a bad day or a godly life or a not godly life. It is a choice, and you so beautifully spoke that, and you spoke that truth. And if people can't hear it, they aren't ready to hear it. That's where they are at the moment. But the good news is that we all wake up sometime, or we all become available to hear it, hopefully at some time during the life. We have adapted, though, other diseases. You are a survivor of cancer. You're a survivor of sexual assault or abuse. You're a broken inner child, wounded something of this, another, a PTSD, something. So we've extended while you don't say you're cancer, like you're an addict, they've added a few extra words to include that. So, but the truth is, in the United States, we're not interested in curing anything. We're interested in maintaining the problem so that we make more money. It's a profit-driven system, which is why think about it. I mean, AA is free. Al-Anon is free. People show up at these meetings for free, and while rehab and stuff can cost money and treatment can cost money, the point is that a lot of people are getting help at no charge because they're interested in helping the person overcome whatever debilitating issue they might be facing. And until the medical community gets that and starts treating the person as a whole person seeking health and not just remedial medicine, and then putting out treatments and prescriptions that maintain everything, we won't see that change. But what you're doing and what others are doing and what you spoke is truth, and that's really powerful.
Thanks, Rex. And it's almost sad to say that insurance companies is falling in line to maintaining and risk reduction, harm reduction. They're into harm reduction. They're no longer into how do we fix this, because now they're getting people involved in medically assisted treatment for substance abuse. Basically, what they do is we're going to take away your heroin, but we're going to put you on Suboxone, and you're still going to be
on a drug,
substance addicted.
Mm-hmm.
And they know that this does not change the problem because there is still a psychological and a physiological problem there. I'm still dependent upon a pill. And the treatments that do work, they don't want to pay for because it's costly and lengthy. But the truth is, because we have people with these insurance cards, it's almost like a credit card to go to rehab. They go to 17, 18, 19 rehabs in a 2 or 3 year period. Right. Tens of thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars that if they had just extended the treatment once, we could increase the success rate by 25 to 40%.
Well, it's also true that in other countries that aren't dependent on our oligarchical system of maximizing profits and minimizing effectiveness, things work and people get better and people are healed of many things. I talking to a friend of mine in France, he had congestive heart failure, needed a heart transplant. He said, I got a new lease on life 7 years ago. They counted me out and said I'm dead, but because of the treatments that I got here, and guess what? It didn't cost me anything, because of the healthcare system there. He said, I'm alive, and they've dealt with the other issues that he had. He was nearly blind and now he sees, he said, thank the French, and I'm not so I don't know. No.
Said no one ever. Said no one ever.
Potentially the first time that's ever been said.
Right. But the point being, that's probably very true. But the point is that for him, 7 years, he's alive. He's grateful. He's thankful because he's been there, getting the kind of treatment he needs because they're treating him as a person, not as a statistic, not as a number, not as an entity inside a hospital, not as a disease, not as an insurance person, because his money's no good there. I mean, this is the thing that, that so many people have expressed to me when I talk to them. They go, I can't pay for treatment in Greece. I can't pay for treatment in Costa Rica. I can't pay. They won't take my money in Ecuador. They just provide the service. But a service can be provided for and still be bad if the mindset that you're articulating isn't in place.
That's right. Rex, I appreciate that. I'd really like to hear about you guys too, because you're all dedicated to certain things. And a lot of it's about being of service to people, about spreading both kindness and wisdom, dignity and respect, and all of those things, healing and even just success in business where we can help people and make difficult things better. So I'd love to know, were there moments in your lives where you've had that kind of change that I kind of talked about, in your own personal experience?
Yeah.
Other than Rex, who didn't, because Rex was born with ultimate. His silver spoon had a dictionary on it in an encyclopedia, and he just ate it, and he knew.
I don't know if we go to the Love Doctor next, or if we go to Scooter.
Yeah, let's go with the Love Doctor. He's looking pretty wise today.
Oh, it's missing with the glasses. Well, actually, a couple of things before I get to that. The medical system definitely is a profit-driven society, not a health-driven focus. I think Japan is the country where basically the doctors don't get paid if you get sick. You only get paid when you're healthy, I believe. I could be wrong on that, but that's the thing, is this country's the other way around. The companies here get paid when you're sick. So why would they want to get you healthy? They lose their bottom line. It's that simple. So until we change that paradigm, it won't work. Anyway, back onto the topic at hand.
Yeah, let's change that.
There's a couple of things I think, looking back, I mean, there's not just one thing for sure. Because I started my journey of awareness, consciousness, personal growth, everything by quote accident, because I was invited into a seminar, which I never heard what a seminar was, back in '84 by a friend of mine who I met. We worked together in the aerospace industry back then in one of my previous careers, and he said to me basically, because I said, look like you've been out drinking last night. You look so tired. This is on a Thursday morning. He said, no, I was at a seminar. What's that? He said, well, some good information, some great people, and some cute women. And I said, where do I sign? Literally, that's what he said. That's what started me on the journey. So I thank him for that. Even though it wasn't the result I got, there was everything else. So I basically got into this whole business in quotes by accident, because it wasn't something I was looking for intentionally. Part of me was. And so I think the bottom line for me is, there's a few points I think I put out, the things I've learned is, one is self-awareness. It's a thing that I've had to hone and work on for many years, and I keep having to come back to it because I always forget when I don't have that presence of mind about what's going on inside of me. Because everything in the world I see through these eyes, hear through these ears, so it's all inside of me ultimately. So being self-aware so I can choose how I respond versus being a ping pong ball reacting to everything that's happening around me, probably one of the biggest skills I've worked on and I help my clients with, because it was something I was talking with a friend of mine a couple of days ago, Sunday, I think it was, around the topic of reaction versus response. If you don't have self-awareness, you become reactive. It's like if someone pushes your button, you jump, how high, sort of thing. When you become self-aware, when something happens, you notice it and you go, that's interesting. What do I do with that? First of all, it's more powerful. But secondly, it makes you much more even-keeled in your life. So I think that's one. I'll leave that one on the table for now. I've got a few others lined up, but that one's definitely something I'll leave on the table because it's kind of a key thing. When you start to become self-aware, you discover a whole different life that you've been living.
Wow. Well, I love how you got involved in what you do, and you're looking for women.
So I wonder how.
Well, yeah, let's break it down to the fine points there.
Yeah, and I wonder how John went from DJ to mortgage. So I got to hear this one.
I'm just thinking what Barry said is probably the most honest thing we're going to hear today. Is that I didn't want to do this shit, but I was looking for girls, and I ended up here.
Yeah.
Hey, I was in my 20s. What do you expect?
Yeah.
I love it. Go ahead, John. What's up, buddy?
Anyway, rates are good to purchase or refinance. I thought I'd throw that in there just to let you know. But what I'd like to say, you know what it really comes down to what you would say to younger people is surround yourself with amazing people like yourself. You really don't know what you're going to get from people. You really don't know the vibe you're going to get from people until all of a sudden you find yourself surrounded with really cool people and really great people, and you get texts or you get messages, and you find yourself waking up being positive for the rest of the day. Take advantage of your kids. Take advantage. They don't know. I mean, I'm fortunate enough to have 6 amazing children, youngest being 16. I was just going to ask him because he just walked in the door. But the older ones will then come to you for advice. And as they get little, you give them advice like you're full of shit. As they get older, I'm like, get on LinkedIn. Who did you meet at this meeting? Connect them LinkedIn. Look at Rex. Go back to our deal. Look at Scott that was just on our show last week. Connect with them. So I think as they get from young to older, it's your different sense of suggestions. But the bottom line is, whoever you're hanging out with, make sure they're on your level, make sure they appreciate what you do, and make sure they can give back to you as much as you give to them.
All right. All right. Here's a little tribute to John here. Love you, brother. Love you, man.
He got shot back into his room.
I know. I'm upset. I'm back in the doghouse where I normally am.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, brother.
I'm going to figure this shit out one day. And one day I'm going to be like in a room. You're like, where are you at? I'm going to look like Scott. I can't do it. I can't figure out.
And Jonesy, Scott's been helping and filling your shoes while you've been gone. Just wanted you to know. It's been helping out.
Oh,
Nobody
yeah.
felt
Yeah.
Jonesy
I
shoes.
did catch parts of the show. So a little bit live, but I was so sick last week. I'm sorry. But hey, Scott, what's going on, brother?
Man, lots. You know, it's interesting.
Pickleball.
Yeah, the topic. Today, somebody asked me, why do you keep doing what you do? I thought it was a really interesting question, and I said, well, I believe I've been granted talents and capabilities that were meant to be used for the greater good. And he said, but why? I thought I had a pretty good answer there, but he called my bluff. He said, are you just an optimist? And I said, no, I have faith. He said, isn't it the same thing? And I said, what was really strange to me is I said, I think an optimist, looks at things with a positive light, but I think if you've got faith, you truly believe. And I said, I think that's the differentiator, that I do things. And I guess what I learned is to truly believe, is to believe in the projects I'm in. I don't present anything unless I use it myself. I'm a product of the product. I don't do things just to make a buck. I do things because I believe they'll be of service to somebody, right? Because I've already used it. There's a belief in there. And, we talked about a lot of different things in the conversation, and it kind of circled back to faith. And for me, that really is belief. Now, you can have belief in your business. You wouldn't be in business unless you had faith, because there's no assurance that anybody will ever come in your door, ever give you a call, that the phone will ever ring. You have to have faith, right? So it was an interesting thing. So when you were saying this, what lesson have you learned along the way? I mean, I've been knocked down a bunch, but I've gotten up a bunch. And so it's not about the getting knocked down, it's about the getting up. But why do you get up? It's the same thing when you're talking about addiction, Scott, and all that. It's you've been knocked down, but you got up because somewhere along the way, somebody convinced you for a short period of time that it could be better, until you could believe it yourself. And then you went from there. So I think the probably the greatest lesson, and unfortunately, as weird as this is going to sound, I think it's something that a lot of younger generation are missing out on right now, is they're not understanding that getting knocked down is actually beneficial, because they have to learn to get up. And they're getting knocked down, and they're staying down, or oh my God, they're afraid to get knocked down, so they don't participate in the first place.
Yeah.
Right. And so the fact is, every once in a while you get that feeling, am I turning into my parents kind of thing? But I think everybody, when you get to a certain age, has that same kind of thing. They realize that it's only through experience that you gain wisdom. And it's only by getting your butt kicked that you gain the experience. Unfortunately, right? You have to live some things. And I think that that's the greatest thing is, yes, I'm definitely an optimist. There's not a doubt about that fact. I look at the positive side of things. and Zig said, positivity wears off, but so does a bath, but we recommend one every day. The point is that there's part of it, but I think it goes deeper than that. And I think that's a in your gut kind of faith that things are going to turn out in a good situation, and whether that be from higher source, whatever you choose to call it, or belief in your friends. But I agree, surrounding yourself with folks like this and being part of it makes it easier to have that faith, because you have to lift each other up from time to time, because everybody gets kicked.
Absolutely, Scott. I'm going to ask you something. You don't have to answer if you don't want to, but you talk a lot about having really a positive vision and having faith and and you even mentioned faith in humanities before and stuff like that. Which is that something that you grew up in, or was that something that developed for you personally? I mean, it did. I'm sure it became personal as you get older. But did you grow up with that kind of faith, or did that something you developed on your own?
No, I don't really think so. I think I was very fortunate to play 5 sports and growing up, and so I had a lot of great coaches, and there was them having faith in you and having that belief in you maybe before you had that belief in you, or they saw something and they worked to help get it out of you. So yeah, while I had good support systems and I had good, I would say that don't think I had anything exceptional. I just think I had a fairly normal growing up, other than playing a lot of sports, having a lot of coaches, having a lot of people seeing things that help develop the burning within that you could then take over. And so that allowed you to see it in other people. Right. And I mean, I didn't always agree with them when they chewed my ass. I didn't always agree with the coaches until a couple of years later, when I went, God, they were smart, right? That they knew something that I didn't know. So I think that it's something, I think that it's something that grows on you. Are we taking some body blows these days? Yeah, there's some situations that I don't think any of us like, right? And you just go, gosh, it would be so much better if that wasn't happening. But then you look back, and I was having that conversation today. We were talking about in Chicago, the 1968 riots, and in Milwaukee and Chicago, there were some huge riots in 1968. I'm very old, but we got through it. And that's the point is, this has happened before. Not great stuff has happened before, and we've come together before, and we've gotten through it. We've learned our way through it. We've made it better. We've done some stuff. Now, is there stuff that maybe has gone too far certain directions? Probably. I don't think there's any doubt about it. I think, what we're talking about, the medical system there, because we had that conversation today. Money isn't in the cure. The money is in the treatment. The treatment is simply a vending machine that keeps on ticking every month. If I cure it, I don't have to pay for it anymore. That sucks.
Yeah.
Well,
right.
You bring a good point, and Rex and I were talking about this earlier, and it brings up a good point that, back in the day, a teacher or a coach could make or break. Back in the day, teachers tried to break me because I came from Long Island and I was Puerto Rican, and and they didn't like that when I came up to Syracuse. It was really hard in 6th grade. But, Rex and I were talking about, the way they disciplined before, now they can't discipline now. And I mean, just the way things changed, and stuff like that. And, you had some good coaches that, molded you. And then I had teachers that actually took time and cared and, got me into the performing arts and, took a chance on me and cared about me and made a difference in my life. So, I mean, it just, that's the importance in kids, in the inner cities and things like that, it's just, it can make a real big difference in a kid's life. So
I think with all the wisdom that we've all gained over time, investing back in others is tremendously rewarding.
absolutely.
And just what can we share? Because we've been there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Scott, I got to tell you, hats off to you, because I think we all know the best coach in the world can't teach value and can't teach. I mean, that's something that you either pick up on or you don't. You could have all the talent in the world, and you could be the worst player when you hit the field. It's not. You took that message and learned what you learned from sports. What I wish more people would learn from sports is about all things are possible if you work for them, and if you believe in the guy next to you, you become a stronger line. And there's so many great lessons instead of just I'm the star of the team,
Yeah.
And
Well,
so many people get caught in that.
That's one of the greatest lessons. And in fact, we talk about Coach Fry would turn over in his grave if he saw some of the things. Nobody, when he came in, the first thing he said is, if anybody gets to the end zone, nobody celebrates until the other 10 players are down there, because you didn't do it alone. You did it as a team. And that was instilled in us, that it was a team game that accomplished it all. Right. And so these guys that go, oh, look at me, and I've done all this stuff. I mean, those guys would have sat the next game or been off the team. They wouldn't have been around, because
Right.
It's not a team. But we've gotten into this, stuff that's just all flash and no substance. Right.
Yeah.
And it's really a shame. And I mean, so much of society has gotten that way. I got 10 million followers. What do? Well, I got my lips injected.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's valuable. That's
Yeah.
going to really serve the world.
Well, that's a good homework assignment for all of us before next week. Everybody get your lips injected. Let's see what happens.
No, thank you. No, I'm far from those lip injections. I'm gonna stay like that too.
Yeah, I got a better chance of getting buttocks than Botox. Rex, what do you think, man?
I think there were some really good answers from each. Barry talked about awareness. John talked about surrounding himself. Scott talked about faith. I think all those are important ingredients, and I mean, and there's no substitute for any of them. And I guess if I had to choose a lesson, there's a statement that I really despise, and that's either you win or you learn. Since when is it a choice of winning or learning? If you learned, you won. Hopefully, if you won, you still learned, but maybe not. So what's more important? So what I guess I discovered for myself that drives me and that has me operate out of certainty is that everything is for our good. And, people want to put, that's God doing it, or the universe is doing it, or the dogs are doing it. And they weren't my dogs, so just so you know. But the point is that, there's always like, who's orchestrating this, as if there's orchestration, and that has nothing to do with it. When Barry mentioned awareness and choice, if you're, and Scott said it, our hardship is here for us. And I always say a battery has a positive pole and a negative pole. It's all how you look at it, but both are necessary in order for the battery to work, for your car to go. So anything and everything that happens, we get to experience, and we get to experience so that hopefully we're aware enough to evolve ourselves forward instead of succumbing to the worst aspects of ourselves, or the worst that humanity has to offer, or the worst, or wallowing in despair because we just can't figure it out. We just don't get back up because. So it's that everything is to our good and to our growth, and that we don't speak it that way. I talked about the high cost of medicine and things like that as if it's the problem. Okay. But you know what? We get to experience that. That means we also get to either live with it or change it. We get to do something about it. We have a choice regarding it because we're aware of it. People talk about the politics or the religion or the tragedy happening here or this, as if it's just, some kind of conversation, that we can't do anything about. my kid, when he was 16, said, "Do you think the world's ending?" And I said, "Why?" And he said, "Because of these things." I've mentioned that before on the show. People look at the stuff that's going on as if this is horrible. Again, Scott said, we've been through these things before. In 1968, we were through this. We've been through a civil war. Heck, Rome fell apart. And they're still Italians. I mean, come on. It's not like I mean, we got to understand that our country could be different tomorrow, or it could be the same tomorrow. In both cases, that might be horrible. You know what I mean? I mean, we don't know. So we have to decide how we make it. When I said I learned certainty, is that I know what works for me. I know what worked for me. I know that when I woke up to what was going on and where my problems are, didn't mean my problems ended, or that there were, all of a sudden it was like, wow, I'm strolling down these, golden streets and the diamonds are falling. Even the people who do better than me, all the millionaires and billionaires and all the people born with silver spoons and all the people who have great success and all the people who lucked it, those are there for my good, so that I can look at them and be envious and then say, wait a second, why am I envying this person? What is it? If I wanted that, I could pursue it. I may or may not get it, but I could pursue it. If I don't want it, then why am I angry that they have it? In other words, it's always a kind of self-reflexive or a reflection for us to wake up, not to make judgments about outside of us. I disagree, and I agree with it. Surround yourself with great people, because what do you do if you're fucking alone?
Yeah.
What do you do if you're the only person in your environment for months or years on end? You have to be your own best friend.
You sit in a hotel room doing a podcast. That's what you do.
Paying by the hour. Paying by the hour. I get it. Yeah, but
I think Rex, kind of what you said. Why are you alone? That's why you need to circle yourself with good friends. Because if anyone gets
Jesus went out to the desert to be alone for 40. A lot of monks go to the monastery to be alone. People sometimes in there, but I agree with you completely.
And I friended Jesus on Facebook, and he hasn't accepted it back yet, so I'm waiting for that one.
Well, that's because he can't figure out he can't figure out where he's supposed to give his mortgage payment.
He's got a shitty man. No, what I was saying is, you don't want people to think they're alone. I mean, right. I think that's the big concern. So you get people thinking they're alone, so they surround their people. So I think what we need to do is find those people that think they're alone and friend them and make sure that they know they're not alone.
And that's what I like about your perspective, because you're saying I'm looking out for my brother or sister and helping them through it by not letting them be alone. But and I think that's absolutely valuable. But it really is all of our judgments. It's what we say about others, what we say about circumstances, what we say about events, and where the hell do you suppose we like to not like or learn to not like ourselves, and make all these critical judgments and statements about ourselves? Like, I'm stupid, I'm dumb, I'm fat, I'm ugly, nobody loves me, I'm a kid, that kind of. If you're not alone, you're also not unliked. You're liked, you're likable. So you have to figure that one out and like yourself. Don't be a narcissist, of course, but like yourself, a genuine regard for your own worth and your esteem and your self-image and who you are, and bring your best. But that said, there are a lot of people say you have to be your best. No, you don't. You don't. I mean, let's stop being stupid about personal change and understand that, when it comes to being alone or comes to being part of a team, Viktor Frankl had a lot of stuff right. In the worst of circumstances, he was like, hey, there were things that he came to understand. It was man's search for meaning, and then how people responded to each other in a circumstance like that, and how they added value and how they got through it. And those who survived and those didn't. You don't judge the people who didn't get through it, but you could look at how did the other people who got through it that didn't end up wallowing. Jobs said you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backward. Awareness is when you can look at the dots while you're in real time and say, I have a choice to do something different.
Oh, yeah.
Rex, I got to ask you, just like I asked Scott, though, because it's always kind of humbling when I listen to you, because I'm thinking, like, sometimes I get on my high horse on, people need to do better, and then we need to do this different. And sometimes I forget things are exactly where they're supposed to be, because that's where they're supposed to be. And I play my role, but if things weren't where they were, I wouldn't have a role to play. So everything has purpose, and I get that. I've seen balance. I've seen that middle ground. it's the blur I see as I run between extremes. I see that blurry spot. You're always standing there, but I see it. But, you know, and I understand we have to explore the ends before we can find the middle. We have to go before we can find that balance point. We got to go over. We got to go out on a ledge once in a while. So everything's got purpose. But did you always have this? And I think you kind of said before the even when you were young, you kind of had these ideas. But was there something that kind of pushed you into this kind of frame of mind that you carry with you now?
Massive amounts of tragedy and low self-esteem. I mean, and just being stupid, you know, I mean, when I was a kid, I wanted to be a mystic and an actor. I mean, those things intrigued me. Probably, you know, the real honest thing is, you know, I wanted to be somebody, you know, I wanted to be a contender. I didn't want to just be me, you know, and I was in a loving family, but I didn't feel loved, you know, but through, you know, a lot of different troubles. And when I had, you know, the experience I write about in my book, it's not the first experience I've ever had that was the problem. It's the one that kind of catapulted me at that time to say, boy, I you know, I'm gonna die here, you know, kind of in the gutter if I don't change my life. So maybe I'll change my life. And it didn't end there. I mean, I've had just as many experiences like that since. I can be quite thick and boneheaded, but you know, they say don't use, you know, self-deprecating humor because your unconscious mind doesn't know the difference between. So my point is that I try not to talk a whole lot about me, but the truth is, I was an asshole. I'm an asshole now. I mean, you know, I mean, I'm stupid now. It's just a matter of degrees. But you know, I mean this sincerely. That what would have derailed me today or yesterday or tomorrow doesn't derail me the way it used to derail me because of going through it. It's kind of like horribly true, but EMT people have to learn how to handle all the horror around them and all the carnage that they face and still do their job. And somehow that's kind of what we learn, you know, or what I've learned to do, so that but the true measure of what I'm trying to talk about is what I say all the time. If you look at something as a problem, it certainly is a problem. And if you look at something as a blessing, it certainly is a blessing. It's our attitude, it's our mindset, it's our perspective, it's what we bring to it. Because you know what? If you take this off and there's just a body lying on the floor and this thing can't talk and think and everything else, what reality am I experiencing?
Wow.
I'm not saying I'm not. Yeah. I'm just saying that what was talking to you a moment ago is not the same. Things change. I mean, things are constantly changing. This notion of being the best is not a bad thing because we want to inspire people to be better. But almost all of our innovation, almost all of our evolution has come out of hardship, out of pain, out of discomfort, out of suffering, where we said there's got to be a better way. And if it hadn't been for that, what might we have done? Where might we be? You know, so the alternative isn't trying to get rid of everything that's wrong. The alternative is learning how that you make adjustments within yourself so that you go through whatever's wrong without being defeated, and then improve the situations around you if you can, or if you choose to, for yourself and other people. Yeah, I don't like, change is consistent, but I hate the notion of constant, never-ending improvement. I hate that canny bullshit. Because you don't have to constantly and never-endingly improve. That's what workshop people tell you in order to sell their programs.
Right.
You want to improve as much as you can, but you also want to relax. You also do want to find balance. You also do want to accept yourself and go, you know what, I'm perfectly fine the way I am, and I like improving. I mean, you know, it's not one or the other.
I think sometimes it's just as important to sit back and say, holy shit, look where I am.
Yes.
Look what I did.
Yeah.
Look what I did. And celebrate those things.
Celebrate the victories.
Absolutely.
You know, I just look at nature and I see, you know, sometimes I see some like birds fighting or dogs fighting or a cat, you know, catching a, you know, but you know, it's all part of what nature is. If you look at the plants, they just do what they do. And so there are pests that prey on the plants or this and the other thing. But somehow, you know, without humans, everything just seems to be fine. Humans have kind of changed the face of the planet. We've created all sorts of wonderful things and all sorts of not so incredible things. So we are, you and I, that consciousness is what a world is made of. So to the extent that we can become more aware and more accepting and more loving and more compassionate, more understanding and enjoy more of life, no matter what's going on, and understand we get to enjoy this for as long as this is attached, apparently.
Absolutely. Barry, you were gonna chime in there. I want to hear what you're gonna say.
A couple of things. One was on that note, it's like, it's about, some other roads on the journey. It's like, the truth is that some people are focused on the goal and ignoring everything in the way that gets there. And also people who do put up their feet and don't do anything. My thought is if you're going to go somewhere, enjoy what's along the journey as well, because you might find detours or reroutes or new paths to follow. And when you get to the goal, you'll have a lot more experience under your belt that you'll have savored and enjoyed along the way, because some people are so focused on the goal, when they get there, it's kind of hollow because there's nothing else besides it for them. That's one thing. Second piece, and it's something that John said earlier, or related to that. I've had to learn the lesson also sometimes that when you find people around you who are friends, sometimes you find yourself rising above them. It's better to walk away than try to stay there. Because part of this journey as well is that, and we talked about this a few weeks ago, about sometimes we come back to the same thing again and again. We think going in circles, but I talk about it being a spiral, that we're actually going up higher levels. So we come back to the same thing, but a different perspective. And some people don't move, and that's okay. But if I'm moving, I'm going to keep moving. So I need to be willing to say no to certain people or just move apart from them, because where they're at isn't where I am anymore. And that's recognition again, self-awareness. I know it's not where I need to belong. My new circle's out there somewhere. I knew, who I'm going to hang out with is much better too.
Absolutely, I love that. And you got to enjoy the journey. Is where everything is. If you were going to just wait until the end to celebrate, that means all of us would have about 15 seconds of perfect happiness as we took our final breath.
It's the dash between when you born and when you die.
I mean, what are you doing?
They say it's the dash. It's the dash. It's the time between when you're born and when you die. That's the piece to enjoy.
Yeah, the dash is the biggest part, but that's not the one that you, Rick.
Right.
I just want to add, so much is context dependent too.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
I mean, I'm a father, and I'd like to be a better father. So I work to be better at being a dad, being open, being available to my children, those kinds of things. It's for some people that may be something they need to force themselves to be. Okay, if I were Muhammad Ali and I wanted to be the best boxer, then that constant, never-ending improvement is going to be a certain amount of dedication to boxing, or I would never be a better boxer. I mean, there's the ability to accept what's going on. There's the ability to change things. We can do both, and neither one of them are right. If you want to separate yourself from those people, I say go right ahead. If another person says, no, I'm going to dive right in and hang out with them because that's what I want, I go right ahead. Because whatever is going to happen is going to happen by your participation in the choice that you make. Mm-hmm. And so on the one hand, whenever I give advice, I'm very mindful of the fact that it's all bullshit. because it's context and person dependent.
Right.
If you say something and you make a general rule out of it, millions of people will miss because they're all going, oh, I'm going to take that advice. That's like living off of a bumper sticker. Oh, okay, that's my rule for life. And you know what? You're going to encounter situations when that rule has counterexamples and has, other nuances to it. And that's what the beauty of consciousness is all about, is being able to explore those choices and those awarenesses and come to the conclusion, I did what I did in the moment, and I have a choice of how I now respond to that. Either I totally fucked up and I feel bad and I'm going to go eat worms, or I did what I did with the best that I had at the time with all the knowledge that I did, and it didn't work out the way I anticipated. And now what do I do?
Unless
I move forward.
Unless you're one of those people that say, God, give me one of those signs, and you read the signs and then you live by that sign. So anyways.
No, the problem is when somebody asks God for a sign, oftentimes you get the sign and then you ignore it because you don't think it's a good enough sign.
Yeah.
You couldn't have meant that.
I welcomed you to Wisconsin is we arrest drunk drivers and speeders. So pay attention to what sign you read.
You're right.
You know what? Whatever sign
Or it's
I
the
look
third
for,
sign I get.
whatever sign I look for is the sign I'll find. Whatever sign I don't want to see, I will ignore. So that's all.
All the rules to the signs.
Sign. Go look in the mirror.
The show says we all see it.
We all, yeah.
But the other thing also is about you have a do-over, because sometimes things happen. Like I remember, a seminar I took way back at the beginning. I took that seminar probably 7 or 8 times over the years because I always found I was a different place coming back into it, and I get different information out of it. So what you said, Rex, is true, that we get a different place depending on where we are. But sometimes it's worth going back and going to get the content again, reading a book again you read once 10 years ago. Your perspective of the book shifted because you're not the same place you were. So how we look at the world and how we receive the world, it can change with time as well.
Well, and there are people who learn to follow recipes, and then they're always saying, what do I do next? What do I put in next? How do I do this? Did I screw the recipe up or whatever? Wisdom is knowing when to do what and where and how and all that kind of stuff. And it's development of wisdom through experience. And if you don't have experience, you're not going to develop wisdom. So,
or depending how many times you hear
one of the other notes was when we were talking about wisdom earlier, one of the notes was saying, oh, here the old guys kicking on the young guys again. And it's not about the old guys kicking on the young guys. It's about those who have had experienced more things talking to those who have experienced less things. That's all it is. I mean, if you can expedite your experiences, God bless you, go for it. But we've been through things that we're working to share with others so that they can borrow the experience as opposed to having to get it themselves. Experience is expensive.
Listen, we're gonna get around to closing thoughts, but can we tie in a little bit of, we've learned these lessons along the way for ourselves. We've learned things about ourselves and about how we want to be in the world, and and the people who become somewhat happy in this world are usually the people who can align those things, who I want to be and how I actually live. But how important is it for you to share that and to help others? Does that play a big role in you continuing to be happy and to grow and to do things? Because there's a lot of people that are kind of like, I got all my stuff, everybody leave me alone, and it doesn't seem a very happy existence. So as we go around for our closing thoughts, maybe we can put in a little bit of that, the importance of sharing this with others too. Not shoving it down their throats, but sharing. Who wants to start to wrap up?
I'll go first so that I let everybody else speak. Yeah, I thought we were doing that already, but okay.
This is in closing.
It's not official until we say it.
Well, right? I just want to say back to the notion of wisdom and experience and people dissing the young. I hate those young people and their music and their, when Paul McCartney or any of the people who've been around for a long time can go, there's good stuff about some music happening today. I go, wow, here's somebody who created an entire movement, an entire, almost like climate change in the 60s. And going, oh, I appreciate the new music here and there and this and the other thing. I mean, so I'm like, okay, maybe we need to be just a little bit more accepting of this stuff, because change, we can also go, there's a certain way to be, and it ain't that. And as long as we become curmudgeon about it, I've always said that aging is weeding out, behaviors until you're sitting in the yard going, get that ball out of my yard. You forgot what it's like to be a kid. You forget because I've been there, I've done that so much. So the key, I think, is Uncle Ben said it best: with great power comes responsibility. When you wake up to some change and it works for you, you want to share it. You want to pass it along. And if you don't, well, nobody says you have to. I mean, there's nothing written in stone that I'm aware of. But it seems that a lot of people do. Now, there are a lot of people who don't. They just want to make money off of it, and so they're spending, doing all this stuff just to cash in on it. But there are those genuine people who really have had transformation, who really want to help the world. And guess what? Apparently, the world needs both, because it also has weeds and it has flowers. So apparently, it needs the frauds and it needs the genuine article, just in order for the positive and negative pole.
Absolutely. Who's picking up next? Barry, go ahead.
To answer your question about being, I've become clear. I've been a teacher most of my life without realizing it. And the thing is, the question about forcing down people's throat or not doing what we teach. I co-host 2 podcasts. There's over 200 episodes of both combined out now. I've got 1,500 videos on my website. I've got 1 book out. I'm working on a 2nd book. I'm not forcing people to read any of that, listen to that stuff, but if they get value from it, awesome. If they pay me for it, even better. But it's not going to stop me doing it. So for me, it's about sharing the message. Like Scott's doing his videos. We do what we do, I feel, because we have learnt lessons that we feel like we can save other people the hassle of going through the same lesson we went through. And if they choose to use it, great. If they don't choose to use it, it's up to them, because we have free will and so do they. So the biggest gift we can give is the people can see stuff. It's like the books I pick up. They did the same thing for me as I'm doing for other people. I have favorite authors I read because I love what they talk about. So I'll definitely get their next book when it comes out. So it's finding what works for you and also being willing to share it with other people who can then find what works for them might be what you have. So we got to be part of the cycle,
Awesome. John, what do you say, brother?
I'm still writing. Hold on. Hang on.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Watch the replay next time.
Are we distracting you from your writing?
No, I'm not writing. I'm writing because you people are such geniuses. And I think what Barry said, finding what works for you, honestly sums up this last hour. Finding what works for you. You can't glom onto someone else. You can't do all the bullshit with everybody else. What Rex had said about his book, about what he's doing, but what Barry said, finding what works for you. And what you need to do is, if you're not comfortable, and we go back to what we talked about before, find a group that you can talk to. You know what I mean? Don't go off on this hinge of weird shit. You know what? Find someone that works with you, and then find some commonality that works with you. And I think once you get that, then you get your group. You're not on your own anymore. There's so many people out there, I think, that have so many same, I don't say issues or problems, whatever it is. But once you get that commonality and finding what works for you, finding that group. And once you get that group, you'll feel better about yourself and everything gets a lot easier. And make sure you have a great support system.
Fantastic, John. Wait, you missed that last part. What'd you say?
Rates are low.
Oh, right.
You
saw that
you gave that to him.
Buy the seller market.
It's these profound moments that keep me coming back.
Oh boy. Scooter,
Scott, yes.
you're
muted.
muted.
I just wanted to be like John. Rates are low. So,
You've been hanging around him too long.
That's right.
You're cut off.
No, I think it's interesting because not long ago I went to a training and they pulled out this book and gave it to us, Og Mandino, The Greatest Salesman in the World. Now, this was copyrighted in 1968, and it's probably one of the greatest books on the planet that most people don't know about. And the 10 scrolls and everything that comes from it, and how to work with it, But there's an example of somebody passing their wisdom onto us. And now I asked somebody the other day, I said, when was the last time you heard Og Mandino's name? And the person responded, if you're not 50, you've never heard of Og Mandino at all, which is really tragic if you start to think about it. So when you start to ask the question of, do we have a responsibility to pass along things? Maybe not. Do we have a desire to? I do, because I look at a W. Clement Stone and what he did for Jack Canfield and what Jack Canfield did for me, or what W. Clement Stone did for Og Mandino and what he did, or Zig Ziglar to me. They all took the time and made the effort to share their wisdom for our consumption. Should we choose to consume it? Should we choose to embody it? And that's always been my thing with my mentors, is give me everything you got. And my commitment is I won't keep it. I'll share it with my students, my clients, whatever. And over time, I've written checks to 19 different mentors across my career. I should be an amalgamation of them and ultimately be the best pieces of all of them if I really take to the material and do things like that. Well, what if we were, and again, I'm not saying the way I've done it is the right way to do it, or it is a way to do it. But, probably back in the day when I started speaking and whatever, I was very passionate about a message and making sure that people got the message.
Yeah.
And now I'm very passionate about delivering the message and do with it what you will. Because the reality is you can't make anybody do anything. You can only offer them the opportunity to consider it. And so, I mean, for your consideration, take everything that we've said tonight, pick out the pieces you like, get rid of the pieces you don't like, and just say, is it possible? Could this be something that would serve me going forward? I think for me, I am so grateful to the coaches who invested so much in me throughout my career that my thank you and my return to them is to invest in others.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's a whole lot easier if they want to be invested in.
Oh, yeah.
Right. But I've always said, ask me anything and I'll share it with you. But I'm not going to force you to take any piece of information. There's such great wisdom on this panel every week.
Absolutely.
And the comments from the side and from everything else. There's so much great quality content here. The question is, do people actually listen to it, or is it there's just 6 talking heads blabbing for an hour because Scott's sitting in a hotel room, or you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I think the point is, one of the things that I've mellowed on is certainly I want to deliver a passionate quality message, but what you do with it is up to you. We can't make you take any actions.
That's right.
I want to add, this is beautiful. I want to add one thing though. A lot of people give gifts and they give with strings attached. Like,
Right.
I give you money, but you have to spend it this way, or I bought you a car, but you can only drive it over here, or stuff like that. When it comes to the gifts of a message from a speaker or an author or someone who on this panel or otherwise, they will do whatever they do with it is true. In the same way that the person reading my bumper sticker, which I don't really have any, but will do whatever they do with the bumper sticker. I have no control over it. They're just
Right.
passive. I would add that it's important that people take what they like and throw the rest away, or they take what they don't like and throw what they like away, so that they get out of their comfort zone and try something different, so that they have a different experience of what might be available for them, so that both are possible for them. But whatever they do, however they do it, they will decide and make whatever their own.
Absolutely.
No, I was going to say, I love that. And I love that the question where you started with, as far as change and why I started doing all these shows and podcasts and things like that is because there's not people talking and have panel like we do here on this Tuesday. Amazing Barry and John, even though he brings up mortgages. I don't want to talk about that right now, but Scooter and Rex and I mean, just amazing topics that are everyday, that pertain and touch everyday lives. I mean, this is an amazing panel that we have here, and just the programmings that we have out there right now for live. We just don't have these topics and things going on, and we've been blessed to have been doing this for over a year now with you guys, and it's just been amazing. And I know that we're going to probably take a little time off, and I kind of want to take a little time off because I really want to do some amazing stuff with this, and even reflecting on some of our shows and bringing some of those little segments and bringing them back up for topics and things like that, because I think what we're doing here, what we, like you said, if people want to listen and have, they can take what we're saying, they can take it or leave it, but, we're given the best of what we have here. And what I love on YouTube and on Facebook, this is going to live beyond our years, and we're given a gift. And I love that, our kids and grandkids will see this stuff, and that's why we're pouring here, and we're not, self-selling or doing whatever. And I really appreciate that you guys are giving, and not too many people do that with, we're not doing this with a lot of commercials and things like that. So, it's just, I'm really honored to be with you guys here, and I just really appreciate that. Scott, if you have anything else to say before we get out of here.
Yeah, all the love, Lynn. Thank you so much for helping us every week, putting this together and doing what you do, and everybody for showing up. Rex, Scott, John, Barry, and the others who join us on occasion.
Yes.
Thank you all, and thank you for all the listeners. Please share this program with others, like the program, and leave comments. It's really, really important that you do that. But we want to get the word out there. And you know what? All you people are getting that old young thing, and youth is wasted on the young. You're never going to get back your Barry Bonds rookie card. You're never going to get back your Superman #1. But your youth is just sitting there waiting for you to pick it up and live it today. That didn't go away. We left it behind. Go get it, pick it up, and go have some fun. Love everybody out there. God bless all. We'll talk to you next week.
Bye.
Keeping me safe.